What is up, everybody? It's your boy Slumpenstein, and I'm coming at you guys with a new coverage video. I have not been to a convention since NakaCon, and I'm saying that like it's been a long time. That was only 2 months ago, actually. But yeah, it's a coverage video. Anime St. Louis has come and passed, come and gone. It's gone. It's not coming back until next year. And I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about my experience, what I think of it, what I liked, what I didn't like, so on and so forth. Before we get started with this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Comment, did you guys show up to ASTL, Anime St. Louis, and what did you guys think of it? First of all, I'm going to start off with the cosplays. I didn't really get any pictures of the cosplays. You know, I was busy, trying to, it was the first time I went there. So I'm sorry about not getting the picture for the cosplays, but, there was a lot of cosplays. There was a lot of good ones. There was a lot of the same thing, which is why I didn't get too many pictures. A lot of them came from Tokyo Ghoul. It was basically all Tokyo Ghoul and Super Saiyan Blue Vegetas and stuff like that. A couple of different ones, but the one, and just because they're the same doesn't mean that they weren't cool. They were actually, pretty good ones. Okay, so let's start off with the venue, the St. Charles Convention Center. It is, it's a very, very nice venue, very nice facilities, very clean, well kept. Staff was pretty good. I didn't have any problems with the staff whatsoever, and it is a little bit on the smaller side, medium size, with that size convention, some of the rooms weren't as big as, as you would have liked, but it still was a very comfortable, convention. Some of the junior, they have a lot of the stuff in these junior ballrooms and they're pretty big panels. So if you want to get into some of these panels, you got to come very, very, very early. You usually have to come early, obviously, to get into a panel. But, as small as those ballrooms are, hardly has any chairs, so a lot of people weren't able to come in, for the simple fact that, it just wasn't big enough to accommodate, even half of the people that wanted to come, it seemed like. But the panels, this has to be one of the best, conventions, panels that I've been to. There was a lot of really good panels, and a lot of diversity, from video games to Metal Gear to different Dragon Ball panels to all that different kind of stuff, man. The game show panels, like Whose Line Is It Anime, that was a pretty awesome one. I really, really loved the panels. All the ones that I sat in on were really cool. They had breakout rooms, different themed breakout rooms. One was just like a standard themed breakout room, and then they had a Legend of Zelda one. And I wish that I could have did that, because that would have been so dope. But we weren't able to do that. It was me and my wife that went, Mrs. Slumpenstein, and like I said, the panels were amazing. They were pretty dang good. And the way that they have them spaced out, it's kind of, I don't know, for those of you that watched my NakaCon video, that's kind of what I meant. It seemed like, the panels were back to back to back. There were always a good panel to go to. And NakaCon, a lot of stuff is spaced out and all that kind of stuff. So the scheduling was very, very good. Moving on to the vendor room. The vendor room was, not the biggest vendor room. It was like once again, about a medium-sized vendor room, but it had some pretty quality stuff. You have your sword tables, you have your t-shirt tables. Unfortunately, there wasn't any like Japanese video games or anything like that, which are usually at some of these conventions, but there was a large variety of the stuff that you would normally find at these cons, like the food and the snacks and all that, and then a lot of artists and all that kind of stuff. All in all, it was quality-wise, it was a pretty good dilly room, but I would have liked to see it be a little bit bigger. I feel like the registration room was a little bit bigger. They could have taken one of those walls down. They had it broke it up. So I feel like they could have used like half of what they used for the registration space for, you know, a few more tables in the vendor room. And that brings me to the next thing, the registration. That's a big talk when you're talking about going to a convention, because a lot of conventions is really, the registration is a headache. But this one was very good. You know, it was very quick. They were prompting people to have their QR codes up so that they could just scan and go, you know, and there wasn't any waiting around and all that kind of stuff. I think I got in and out of that room in less than 5 minutes, you know. I'm sure that probably takes a little bit longer for the people that are paying on site, but even that line seemed to be moving at a very rapid pace. So that was pretty cool also. So registration room was pretty good too. The next thing that I'm going to talk about are the dance parties. The first night, which is the Friday night, there was a 90s dance party. So it was, you know, a mix of 90s music and some, you know, current day stuff. And that one was actually pretty good. You know, I was a little bit worried about the space that they had everybody in, but it worked out pretty good. You had some tables over to the side with some lights, because it was supposed to be like a 90s prom. That's what it was, you know. So they had some nicely set up tables over there if you wanted to go sit down or whatever. You know, they played like the cha-cha slide and all that kind of stuff and got everybody up and moving. So it was pretty fun. You know, it was cool to see everybody up and, you know, interacting and, you know, dancing and all that. But the big one, I feel like that one was more for, you know, an everybody type of thing. But on Saturday they had the EDM party, and that one was definitely a lot more hype, a lot more upbeat. You know, they started off and had the music dropping, and they dropped in 30 balloons and people were popping them around, and you got your dancing dinosaurs, you got the dude freestyling up on the stage on the mic. That one was really cool. I thoroughly enjoyed myself at both dances. The first one went into about 12:30, I think, so it was 10 to 12:30, and the Saturday one went from 10 to 1 o'clock or 1:30, you know, so pretty good time slots, you know. So that was pretty cool. You know, if you like going to conventions for the raves or the dance parties, whatever you want to call them, you know, it was very solid in that regard. You know, and the parking was pretty damn good. Didn't have to worry about parking and walking however long. Didn't have to worry about paying for parking or anything like that. You know, so parking at the venue was pretty good, and it was connected to the Embassy Suites. So if you had like a room at the Embassy Suites, then you were set up pretty nicely. And then the last couple of things I'm going to talk about are the tabletop rooms and the video game rooms. So, excuse me. Allergies is messing up, man. All this damn pollen. But the tabletop room was your normal tabletop room. It was a lot of space, though. It was a lot of space. So if you wanted to go in there and play whatever tabletop game that you're into, they had some tabletop games at the front that you could rent out. They also were selling some at the front, which, you know, is kind of typical, but, you know, it was a very spacious room. It was very cool to see, you know, people in there utilizing that. And then the video game room was about the same size as the tabletop room, and they had a large variety of games, from, you know, console games, from Smash Bros to Injustice 2 to Street Fighter to Call of Duty World War II to Mortal Kombat XL, all that kind of stuff. And then the other half was more of an arcade feel. So they had, you know, Dance Dance Revolutions, obviously, you know, stuff like that. And that was pretty awesome, you know, and it didn't ever seem too overcrowded in that arcade room, and it didn't feel too overcrowded in the vendor room either at any point in time. Maybe on Saturday at peak time it was a little bit crowded, but it never felt overcrowded, you know. So all in all, you know, I did enjoy myself at this convention. I would come back. You know, St. Louis isn't, you know, too far from where I live, so like I was saying, you know, just expanding the vendor room a little bit, maybe rearranging what panels go where. You know, I would like to see some of the, you know, the ones that you know are going to be more popular in the bigger rooms, so all that is just like scheduling and rearranging where stuff's gonna be, which isn't that big of a deal. It wasn't anything that impacted it to the point where I'm like, oh well, this sucks. It was all very very fun. I had a very fun time. I hate that it had to end because now I got to go back to work, but I would definitely recommend that you go to this convention. I would definitely recommend it. If you're more than 4 or 5 hours away, I don't know if I would recommend driving that far for it. But if you're like, 4-hour drive is fine, 5-hour drive is fine. Anything above that, I would, recommend thinking twice. Maybe going to one that's closer. But that's not a knock on the convention at all. It's a nice sized convention, very fun time, full weekend of fun. There's other stuff to do in St. Louis while you're there. So there's fun for everybody. There's fun for the kids. There's fun for you. So get in there, have some fun, and go anime. Nah, I'm just playing. But if you like this video, man, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell next to the subscribe button so you can get notified whenever I go live on stream or upload more content. I will catch you guys later.